Hello, everyone. I'm excited to meet you, everyone, on today Positive Technology Conference. I plan to talk a little bit, well, not a little bit, about testing your React application. Hope you would find a lot of useful information for yourself. So let me introduce myself. My name is Anton Kononenko. I work at Sonalake. On technical team lead position, I'm using React all the time, and we do a lot of testing. So everything what I'm gonna discuss today is based on our internal experience. Okay, so let's go on. Testing your React application. I'd like to start with talking about why we actually do those testings, because all the time, our manager, our developers, everyone says that we want to have tests. But why we want to have tests? Well, we want to have this in order to reduce risk. It means that when we're working on legacy code or old code base and we do some changes, we want to be sure that it still works as expected. Nothing's broken, there are no regression issues appear, and it gives us some guarantee. It also means that we shouldn't do any harm. How it may happen with our test. For example, you wrote the test and it's failing and you see that you need to change the production code. And when you do this, in order to make the test pass, you actually do some harm because it's break a guarantee which should give you normally your test. So that's something you need to avoid, and that's what goal we try to achieve with our tests. Next thing is tests should help us understanding system under test. I don't know if all of you have heard this term system under test. It may be a function, it may be a class, it may be a React component, maybe React application, anything which we're actually trying to test. An idea here is basically we try to provide some input to our system, and we try to understand what result. And this is what it means, understand system under test, how it would react if we provide some data. Okay, next goal is improve quality. How our tests can help us improve quality? Well, there are several approaches. First of all, we can use our test as specification. It means goals should help us ensure that application works correctly and we understand what the behavior normally. Also, it should help us to prevent bug happening. So again, when we do some changes, we want to ensure that we not broke anything, or if we broke, then test would help us to discover it. It also can help us with defect localization. For example, we have a huge code base. We have a lot of components. They all somehow interact. And when something gets broken, we want to have possibility easily find the place where it's get broken. So that's what improved quality means. Okay, next thing is not, I wouldn't call this goals. I would rather say what we expect from our test. And we expect that it is easy to run, right? That we can just execute one command and it starts all the tests. It also should ensure that test not failing if nothing gets changed. So for example, common problems with dates, when time passing, tests start failing, and then we are failing meeting this easy to run. We need to do some changes in order to make it run again. So, and here we go to the next point. We expect that it's easy to write the test, and our tooling should help us with this. So when we talk about easy to write, it actually means that tools should help us make simple tests. Tests should be expressive by their nature, so we can easily understand what's going on. We don't need to debug or try and do anything else. And it also should help us separate concerns of tests. It means that when we testing, we try to test in one thing and not a lot of things together. So, and the last point here would be easy to maintain. As our system grows, our decision get changed all the time. We may change our infrastructure, we may change architecture, we may change dependency, we can change vendors which we are using. And while we do this, we need to ensure that it's still easy to maintain. Like, we don't need to do any big changes in our tests. Because if you remember, reduce risk, that's a little bit correlated with this. And yeah, that's the idea. That's what we expect from our tests. Okay, stop talking about theory. Let's talk about React components and application. In general, if we're talking about testing React application, and we need to try to understand how it works, what it is. So basically, React by itself allows us to define some components. Components has a simple input as some data passed in via props. It has output, virtual DOM, which usually then feed to React, and React knows how to do something with this and render. And it's important to understand what is input and output, because when we're testing, we test our system under test with provided input and expect that output will match our expectation. However, it's also important to understand what the React application is. Basically, React application is just React component, which we take and render to some real DOM. And as an input here, we usually would provide some configuration. And when I say configuration, it may be current location URL, it may be local storage, session storage, anything that you have and provide. Usually it's some global stuff. You may also try to fetch some config, which you will provide to React application. And then you get the real DOM rendered. Okay, so basically we can treat any component as a React application if we want to. Okay, so how we try to test, what tools we have, what approaches, methods, when we talk about React applications. Well, we can apply snapshot testing. I believe a lot of people talk about this and use it. We can use a shallow rendering technique. We can use full DOM rendering technique. We can use end-to-end testing. We can use visual testing. And there are some other approaches which can be applied. And we're going to talk about them today. So let's go. I don't like talk without some practice. So we will try to take a look on some real project. Well, kind of real. I created this for presentation purposes. Let's imagine that we are selling some items on the internet. We have online market. We're selling hats, we're selling glasses, bottles, chairs, and we have so-called product list page, which basically contains some product cards. As you can see, each product card contains an image which shows us the product. It also has product name. It also has product description. It has product price. Price may be in Polish zloty. It can be in euros. We also have possibility to add this cart, and then it's appear in our cart. We can also remove the item from the cart. And just to show you, if we add in its appearance in our cart. However, here's a lot of elements. We will try to be quite focused, and I decided to focus on the product cart as item which we're gonna test. So first approach which we try to use for testing product cart would be snapshot testing with full DOM rendering. Basically, idea here is that we treat each component as an application. We kind of render it to the actual DOM which we should get in the end. And then we just do different between what we had before and what we have right now. And if it's the same, it means it works as expected. So let me show you how it works in a real world. So that's a code base for our online market. That's how our product list page looks like. We have product cart item, which is basically a container. I don't know if anyone aware of, but there's popular approach, maybe right now not so popular, splitting components into containers and view. I decided to go with this approach here. So basically we have product cart container, and we have product cart view, which basically responsible for rendering this product cart, just UI. As you may see, it's defined that it looks like a cart. It has an image, some cart content, product name, product description, and it has some footer with price, and the button depends on the state, is product in the cart or not. Okay, so let's try to add some tests. I created for simplicity some helper function which will get rendered product cart view or product cart container, so basically everything. So as I mentioned, we go with full render, so we would need this full render function. How it works? Basically, we need to try to define, we need to render it. So I will gonna use renderer, test renderer, which coming from React. You can see it's React test renderer. So after I create this, I expect that my tree, which we get in the end, is the same as we have in Snapshot. However, right now we have no snapshot. So curious how it's gonna work out. Let me run the test here. We have it. All tests. Okay, so one snapshot return. If you see, there is a snapshots folder on the left side. And if we go inside, we can find out how the snapshot looks like. So basically, it's contain all DOM which actually get rendered with all details. For example, I've used Material UI library for the UI. And as you see, those class names appear here. Also, we have image, which we add in. We also have our product name. We have product description and a lot of stuff. So let's try to change something. For example, we can remove, we can change style of the product name. So right now it's rendering with header tag. Let's remove it. And let's see how it's going to work out. As we use full DOM rendering, snapshot failing. Well, yes, that's correct. Let's see what it showed to us. Let me expand a little bit. So it says snapshot received, and we had header 2. Right now we have header 5, and that's not what we want to have. Okay, so let's fix it easily. And basically, that's how it works. But this is in product name component. It's not exactly in product card view. So with this full DOM rendering, we get everything we tested at one point. So let's try to understand how it works from perspective of our expectation. Well, if we're using snapshot full DOM rendering, it's easy to maintain because we just, as you've seen, a quite simple creation of this snapshot, and then I can update. Actually, I haven't shown you how to update this, so let's try to change that header 3. So when it's fail, I can just press U letter, which means update, and it will update for me, and that works as expected. Hurrah! However, it actually has downside, because I even checked what the result is. I just pressed update, and it works. It's green. It's good. At least it looks so. So That's the problem. It's actually too easy to maintain test. It is easy to write, there's no problem to it. However, it's not very expressive because in actual test case, I don't see expectation. It's in separate file where I need to locate it. There are also no separation concerns because I test all together, everything, all in one. So yeah, easy to run. Yeah, there's no special impact here. I'm using Jest, which is common tool for all React application. Understanding system under test. Well, yes, it gives me a result of how my component will look like. However, for me, it's hard to read and hard to understand. So it's actually not very helpful because of too much details. Improve quality. Well, yes, it's allowed to find bugs. As you've seen, I can easily find the bug. However, there are no defect localization because it's just show everything. So I'm not able to find where exactly it fails. I can get the report of impact on the system, but not where it's broken. Unclear behavior, it does not work it does not work just as specification just because of those verbosity. It's unclear to understand what the impact, and it just whole state. I don't have any other details. And also, it does not reduce the risk. Tests are fragile. They doesn't deliver confidence because when I do any change, it starts failing, and it's irrelevant from test perspective. Is it something like we change vendor library? Because as you may see, I have, for example, here paper rep root, which coming from material UI, and if they update just the class name, it will fail. However, system will work as expected. So it does not bring, it's not reducing the risk of the change because there are those false positives and positive false, actually. Okay, let's go to the following approach. What we can do with this? We can try to apply snapshot shallow rendering testing. Here's idea is similar to the previous one, but we mostly testing as React component because we're testing a result virtual DOM, and we define between this virtual DOM's elements. So let's go back and try to apply this. In general, this shallow rendering become popular thanks to Enzyme. I believe a lot of you have heard about this. It's still created by Airbnb for the testing purpose. And yeah, as you see, I have shallow from Enzyme. As this basically works as a renderer here. But I will use view render because the shallow render to virtual DOM for one level. I will get the result which I have here, exactly. And container is actually contained just product card view, so I cannot do such testing here. So let's try to add actual check. I would need to JSON. That's a helper, which I imported for shallow rendering. Too much snapshot. Okay, there we go. Product card. So one snapshot written. It will be added. Actually, it was added to the same file. So right now we have here two snapshots, and this one looks a little bit different because I don't have those third-party class name. I don't have those Ds. I have components which has been used. So this one coming from Material UI, this is my own component which I created, this is another one component which I created, and it contains all details here. So it's work a little bit different. So returning to our example with a product name, if I change here, it will lead to failing only full DOM rendering, but the second one will work as expected. Yeah, full still failing. So let's try to, yeah, it works as expected. because it's a different component. Let's fix it. But if we go to our product card view and we actually remove something from this component, like class name, we omit this, but we need this class name because it specified the height of the image. And okay, it's got failing. And as you see, it shows us the difference that only this point fails. However, full DOM rendering fails as well. So let's fix this. Okay, so when we talk about snapshot shallow rendering testing, it's very similar to previous one, but there's small differences. It's the same, very easy to update test. It's the same, too much easy, because you can just press update and it will fix it for us. It is easy to write. Yes. Test looks simple, but again, it's not expressive. It's still no separation concern because, as you've seen, I have a lot of components being used in one component, which in general, common practice. You usually have more than one component in one component. You have more of them. Easy to run, no special impact here. Understanding system under test, yes, that's right now much better because I get the actual result of how my component behaves. It gives me much better understanding, and it's not so much detailed as it was with full DOM rendering, so it's become a little bit better. It also helps us to detect to help with defect localization, because as you've seen, if I would add to product name test and I break it there, it will just show me only one test failing. So I would be able to identify what's went wrong and where it went wrong. But still, it's too verbose, and still it's hard to understand what the behavior would be, how, if we do something, how it behaves. And still, tests are fragile. The problem also come in here. For example, if I try to rename my component, those tests will fail. Because as you've seen here, I have basically names. And if this name gets changed, I will decide that I don't want to name this as product card footer, but just card footer, because I have different cards and I want to refactor this. This test will fail. And it does not give me confidence making such changes. OK, so let's go next. What we can do. We can try to apply just common testing practice when we test a specific element. However, we will try apply shallow rendering from Enzyme. And yeah, idea here is very simple. We just do shallow render, and then we check if exact element in the exact state. So let me show you an example. Should display name. OK, so let me try to first do a shallow render. OK, just pasted this one. And here we need to add expectation. And we will do next. We will try to search for product name, as it says, should display name. And it should have children, and it should have text, and text should equal product name. You may be wondering from where does this product name come from. And as I said, I created a helper function, and I pass the following object, like name, product name, description, product description, lorem ipsum, and that's what is expected. Let's take a look. Will it work or not? Yeah, it works as expected, and let's try to break it because, okay, let's just add one element, and hurrah, it's not working, and we expect it. And it actually is saying that text is meant to be run on one node, to found instant. Actually, it does not fail here on expectation, it fails on retrieving the text, because right now it's not in the state we expect. because when we looking for this product name, we know that this component exists, and we actually use the knowledge how the system is built inside, that it has children, and the children gonna be a text, it's single node, and that's already goes in our test, those assumption. And yeah, that's why it failing. With shallow rendering, again, if I would break the product name inside, that it will just not render children, this test will pass because it's based on shallow rendering, just based on virtual DOM, which returned by product card view here. So it is easy to maintain because we are focused on one component, and shallow rendering encapsulates this. However, if we would just rename names, it creates some problems. Test simple, it's expressive, and its concerns are separated, because if you take a look here again, you easily can understand what I'm doing. And I'm testing only one concern. I'm testing that this product name would appear. And yeah, that's good. It's easy to run, no special impact here. It helps us understand system under test, because yeah, we understand that when we provide the product with such name, it affects output in the way the name will appear. That's great. It allows to find bugs, and thanks to shallow rendering, we can get defect localization. And again, right now it's a clear understanding of behavior because it's focused. Okay, but still, reduced risk does not work well here because it's the problem of shallow rendering. My component actually may not work, but test would be green. Okay, so let's go further. Recently, well, I don't know if it's correct word right now. Recently, a new library has been become popular, called testing library, maybe a year or two ago, and it basically based on testing on full DOM rendering, no shallow renders, and yeah, it also provides a lot of helpers which can improve how we do those tests. Okay, let's go back and let's try to implement it. So first, we would need to render. Render function coming from this testing library. We would use full render because we know that it's based on full DOM render. We provide the whole component with container. And let's try to add our expectation. So testing library also coming with so-called screen. It's an object which allows us to search for example, some text. And basically, we're saying that should display name. We actually say that if we render our product name, somewhere our product name should appear. And let's do to be in the document. So if it's in the actual render DOM, it means that it works as expected. So let's try it. It works fine. So let's go to example with, okay, for now, for testing purpose, I will disable previous tests. If you guys don't know, you can use this xtest, xdescribe. It just skips and executions those tests. Okay, product card, product name. So if I go here and I remove my children, it's failed. Look, it's saying that it's not there. And actually, if we go into our application right now, we don't have names. It's not there anymore. So yeah, it's actually get broken. So let's revert. And yeah, here we go. So right now it works as expected. If we just change here styling, it would be on successful, yeah, because we are not testing this concern. And about testing such concern we will talk in a minute. So basically, it actually how we as humans do testing. We normally would open this component and we'll take a look on the UI we have, and we basically search for a piece of element. And that's the idea of this testing library. And it is easy to maintain right now, thanks to ignoring private dependencies. It is easy to write. Test is simple. It's expressive. Separation of concern. I'm testing only one concern at a time. No special impact on easy to run. Understanding system under test. Yes, it's clear for me from the test case that, sorry, let me switch. When I see my test, that if I render my product card, I get the product name. That's good. It allowed to find bugs. However, with defect localization, it's not so good. As we render everything here, it fails. And if we go to understanding behavior, it's still, yes, it helps us to understand behavior. Reduce risk, yes. Right now, tests failing when they are normally broken. That's give much better guarantees. However, please take it with some awareness that all of these points, especially here, really depends on how we do tests. And with enzyme and shallow rendering, it's the same. You may do in a little bit different way, which may actually not deliver some points. I just try to use some good practices. So, for example, you may test by so-called data test IDs. Idea is here, we may create some anchors in our HTML markup and then search for this anchors and test it. That this anchor just is there, and this is not very good idea. However, as a last resort, it may be used because there are different scenarios you may want to test, and we actually gonna talk about this data test ID in a minute. I've actually created one here for product name for locating. So yeah, that's really important. Okay, end-to-end testing. Actually, something interesting happening in front-end community. Quite often, people, when saying end-to-end tests, mean not something that classic quality assurance means. Basically, it says that we will run the browser, we will run the whole application, and we will run our tests. However, we may connect to the mock backend, but not the real one. And right now, Cypress is extremely popular as a tool for this. So yeah, please be cautious. You need to understand what exactly kind of end-to-end test is used. Is it just Cypress with browser, or is it a real end-to-end test which connecting to the real dependent system and testing really scenarios from one end to the second end? So you need to be sure that you have understanding. Let me show you how this Cypress work. I created some tasks, but it's not implemented. I have like products, should load products. So Cypress as well coming with a lot of useful utilities. So first, we will try to visit our page, localhost products. Here it is. And then we try to get actually all product names. And for this, we need this data test L name. Okay, because we would have a lot of product cards, and actually right now it's hard to search for name. We need to search for something else, and data test ID or data test L, as it's called here, is popular approach for such kind of problems. So let's try to check. Should have blanks for. That's our expectation here. Let me run the Cypress. Okay, Cypress coming with this nice UI. We can actually change the browser where we want to run this. Right now, we will test on Chrome. Opening. Oh, sorry, it's appear on my second screen. Okay, so yeah, it succeeded. Let me run again. Yeah, it's there. So if we change our data, for example, we will remove one product. So that's my mock data database. Okay, so let's try. It's tried, but it's failed. It's found 3, but I expect 4. So actually, yeah, it finds this mismatch. So you can use this tool for real end-to-end tests. It's a very nice tool, but yeah, it also can be used just for UI checks as well. Because we can actually do a mistake, and from product cart view, we can, by an accident, remove this. So let's try to execute it again. Okay. Yeah, it failed. You just see no names here. Okay, that's good. Let's back to our summary, end-to-end testing. So if we're talking about such kind of end-to-end test, it is easy to maintain because we basically test whole application. We ignore private dependency. It's nice. It is easy to write, as you've seen. Like, however, you may use other tool, for example, Protractor or Selenium or whatever. And well, then it's a question to the tool. It's expressive. We test in separated concern. Yes, we test in one separate concern here. However, when we talk easy to run, well, it is easy to run. However, it's slow because it's use the real browser. But there's a small improvement. You can, for example, use headless mode, which is a little bit faster and better. However, it's still slow. And actually, before we were using Jest, and Jest normally using JS DOM implementation, just virtual DOM written in JavaScript. And yeah, you can actually switch to real browser. However, Jest does not have so much nice helper functions that Cypress has. So yeah. And next, under sentence system under test. Yes, show how input affects, but it actually too detailed because as you've seen, it was like I'm just looking for one particular scene in a lot of elements, and it's like drawing in the sea. It's a little bit hard. It alone to find bugs. So that's definitely true. However, defect localization fails here, and due to the same problem with understand suit under test, it's not clear behavior right now. And reduce risk, yes, definitely, because we try to test on the same level as user with like full setup. But again, the way how you do test may impact on those items. That's really important. Okay, let's go next. Right now, I want to talk a little bit about Storybook. I don't know if any of you know what it is. Storybook is a tool for UI development. It makes development faster and easier by isolating components. We can actually run separate components on separate screens, this kind of separate applications. And it's also very good if you want to do some manual testing on the component level. You would definitely go for Storybook. That's a nice tool. But wait, why we even talk about Storybook here? And the reason for this, I want to show you visual regression. visual testing. And it's extremely easy to do with Storybook and Chromatic. For me, just setup took a few minutes. Chromatic is another service for actual visual testing. However, it's very good. It has very good integration with Storybook. And idea is visual testing allow you to find UI issues like change styling or something like this, or for example, red border right now, yellow border. And before, nothing would help you to do this. However, right now, we can do this. So let's first fix this. And OK. Storybook up and running. Let me show you in general how Storybooks looks like. We have 4 minutes left. Okay, where it was. It's a little bit hard to find. Okay, here it is. Has an address, localhost. So I created product cart as a story for Storybook. So you can test is if you want, for example, add to cart, remove cart, you can do some other testing just to ensure how, for example, product cart behave with very long names, and we can see easily. It's nice, but we are interested in visual regression. For this, we're going to use Chromatic. Let's try to break, because I already uploaded my previous version of UI. It knows how it looks like. So let's try to break something not so visible. Let's make, for example, let's make image invisible by setting height to 1 pixel height. Image, yeah. So Chromatic is not for free. Well, it's for free just for small projects. If you have just 5,000 tests per month, then it's for free. If you have more, well, then you have to pay. Chromatic is not the only one tool which does this. There are a lot of other alternatives. For me, just was a simple setup, because I wanted to show you an idea how it works and how it can help your testing. So, yeah. There also one side effect here, so side point, that it takes some time. Okay, it's failed. That's good, because I actually did the change. Let's check. It has nice UI here, as you see, and for example, we can review change. That's what I had. That's what my baseline looked like, and that's what I have right now. Please take a look that it actually missing the image. It's not there anymore, and this helped me to catch this bug. No other technique which we checked previously wouldn't help to solve this issue. So this is good. In general, one point here, Chromatic also do snapshot testing on full DOM rendering. So if you're using Chromatic, you don't need this, but keep in mind that it has limits. So visual testing. It's basically kind of snapshots testing on steroids, because we're testing whole UI. So most points the same as for snapshot testing, and just the problem that it's slow right now, and setup actually maybe not so easy if you wouldn't go with Chromatic but something else. And yeah, we are testing the image. It's a problem. Okay, so basically that's the last approach which I want to show you today. And summary. Snapshot tests. Snapshot tests are actually has main problem easiness to update. And this is the biggest problem there, because of so much easy possibility to update your test scenarios, you may not pay attention. However, it's still appropriate if you have pure UI component that's purely focused on view. Then it can be applied, but usually for very small one, and one you own. Shallow rendering technique cannot deliver confidence. Well, that's the problem of any mocking solution, and the shallow rendering basically ignore whatever you have under the hood. However, when you as a user use component, you expect that whole behavior would work as expected with all internals. So that's the problem with shallow rendering. However, if you have some, for example, third party underneath and you just don't want to interact with this, it's still valid technique and very helpful. Testing on actual HTML by checking exact pieces, elements in the most suitable approach for most applications, because that's how user would actually interact with your component, and that's how you test it. So it gives you the best result most of the case. End-to-end testing even better because it's testing the whole application. However, it's usually slower, and as we test on whole application, it has own problems. And the last one, visual testing. Normally, you don't want to have this unless you're doing charts or visual complex components where it's extremely important, the colors, the patterns, and the stuff, then it's your best friend. No other technique would help you with this. So yeah, then it's really your best friend. And yeah, that's it. Thank you everyone for your attention. If you have any question, please write it on the channel. I've seen one before from Jerzy Nowanowski. If shallow testing is not helping, not giving confidence, what is the purpose of doing them? Are they lowering a risk at all? That's not clear to me. Can you please advise? So yeah, as I mentioned at the very end, if you have, for example, some very complex third-party component on which you depend, you want to mock this. You don't want to intervene. However, in general, mocking is something you want to avoid. So please be cautious and think twice if it's something you need. If so, then yeah, it's still a valid approach, but it shouldn't be default. It's usually something you would apply in some specific case. Okay, any other questions? It looks like no other questions. I hope that this chat would be open. So if anyone would has any other question, please write it here. I will respond in the chat. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. Talk to you later. Bye.